Well, hello, I'm Dr. Julia Royston, and always excited to bring you people, places, things, information, resources, and tools. And I'm always super excited when I have an author to introduce with a new book and new information to inspire you, to uplift you as well. But she's more than just an author. She has a lot of other hats that she's wearing, and things that God is really pouring down in her spirit. And I'm super excited for it. So this is what I want you to do. As always, get your pen and paper out, because I know my listeners are often Googling and going on social media at the same time as the interview is happening. So I want you to be ready, because so I'm giving you a second. Go ahead and get your pen and your paper out, or get your phone with the notepad out, so that you can get her name and information down, so that you can make those connections. So I'm pleased to introduce Ms. Vivianne Griffiths, and I want her to introduce herself formally, tell us where she's from, and tell us where people can find her on social media and our website. Ms. Vivianne?
Mhm. Good evening, everyone. Hello, hello. And thank you so much, Dr. Julia, for that wonderful introduction. Yes, I'm Vivianne Griffiths, and I actually hail from Brooklyn, New York. And I have lived 4 different places. And the longest I've lived so far with my husband is Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm currently living. And we've lived here 33 years. And I am an adult nurse practitioner, still practicing, but now part-time, because I'm wanting to launch my next path that God has me on, which is writing and life coaching.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. So we got a lot to talk about. So first off, how long were you a nurse?
Oh my, okay. I've been a nurse total for, I would say, probably over 40 years.
Oh,
Now, it me because I started nursing when I was 19. I got out of school a year early. And so I have been a nurse practitioner for 24 of those 40 years.
oh my goodness. That is phenomenal. Okay, so what inspired you to originally be a nurse? Like I've been in the hospital, I've had surgeries, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't have the heart for, I don't think, no, I wasn't called for this. So what inspired you to be a nurse?
Well, there were a couple of main things for me. Starting when I was young, I would say when I was 7 years old, my mother became mentally ill off and on, and a wonderful, wonderful, devoted mom. But I became really compassionate and I learned how to be a caregiver early in life because I always wanted to do something to help my mom when she was not well. And my father was there as well. But then the second thing was that I had strep throat a lot as a kid. I had tonsillitis really, really bad. And I always had to go to our doctor's office. We had a Black doctor, and his wife was a nurse. And I was just impressed by her in her white starch uniform with her white cap, in those days, way back.
Mhm.
And even though I know that she was going to stick me in my butt with penicillin,
Mhm.
I knew that after she did that, I got better.
Mm.
And she would give me a lollipop and she would try to soothe me as I was crying going out the door.
Mhm.
So as I got better and I got older, I decided, yeah, I think I really would like to do this. I really would like to help people because I have a passion for people who are suffering.
Yeah, that is phenomenal. So I've got to ask you this. So what's the hardest thing and the best thing about being a nurse?
The hardest thing about being a nurse is not having enough time, not having enough time to be with your patients. Because you have, even if you're in a hospital, especially now with COVID, you have so many people you're responsible for. People calling ill, you're short staffed, you have to work 12-hour shifts in some places. And then also, nursing, just like medicine, is lifelong learning. You have to keep learning, you have to keep up to date because otherwise you can give a patients a bad outcome. So it's something that you're not going to stop learning with. And then also, you can have compassion fatigue because you have to smile, you have to be competent, but you also have to be compassionate. And even though you're doing all those things, you're also taking your own life with you every day.
Yeah, yeah, that's hard. So what's the best thing?
The best thing is that I actually love my patients. I'm so proud to be a Black nurse practitioner. There's not a lot of us, but now I have had the opportunity to precept a lot of nurse practitioner students at University of Louisville and Bellarmine and Spalding and some other colleges of nursing. And lots of the nursing students look like me. So
Yeah.
I that I'm on a path to retirement. I feel really comfortable that there will be people who will be culturally competent to take care of our folk.
And okay, so I've got to ask you this because my husband has an African American nurse practitioner. And so even
Mhm.
before I talk about that piece or ask you about that piece, for our international audience who may not have a nurse practitioner in their area or understand
Mhm.
what the difference is it. So what is the difference between an RN and a nurse practitioner?
Okay, absolutely. A nurse practitioner has to be an RN before she becomes a nurse practitioner. You
Okay.
have to have your master's degree in nursing. So our initials are APRN, which is Advanced Practice Registered Nurse.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So you go on and you do more skills. You have your master's degree and you specialize. So I specialize in adult medicine. So I'm an adult primary care nurse practitioner. You can be a pediatric nurse practitioner, you can be psych, you can be gerontology, you can be also a nurse anesthetist, who lots of people don't know. A nurse anesthetist is a nurse practitioner.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. And I do
Yeah.
know a friend of ours who was I can't even hardly say the word nurse anesthetist. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
Now, see, I had
Anesthetist.
a speech impediment with S's, so you know that's hard. That's really very, very woo, that's difficult, definitely difficult for me. So and so she was, but she was in the military though. So she was
CRNA.
what is it again? I'm sorry, say one more time.
CRNA are the initials for our certified registered nurse anesthetist.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So that is really very, very interesting. So I have to as I say, we have to talk about the cultural differences because I know that back in the day, probably in Brooklyn, there were probably a lot of Black doctors and dentists and all that. But I probably didn't have my first African American anything until recently this year, which is really sad to say.
Mhm.
So, how do you feel as an African American woman providing services for people, especially people of color?
Mhm. I feel very good. It's been a long time coming, I think. What I do know is that right now now we have a younger nurse practitioner who's also African American, but before I was the only Black NP in my clinic. And we have 8 clinics, but in my particular site, I was the only one. And my Caucasian colleagues, they are very competent, they are very caring, but I know the difference is that with me, I can talk to my people and they get it.
Yes,
Say to them, if I especially I say to my young people, okay, let me give you the 411. They know exactly what I'm talking about.
exactly.
If I say to them, okay, you didn't take your medication, you came in here for me to check your blood pressure. How can I know if it's working? And I'll tease them and I'll say, okay, don't let me come after you now because you know what? I just have to look at a computer. I know where you live.
Right, right,
And
right.
they and we just laugh because we get it. We get it because we can talk the same lingo. And some of my other colleagues, they will sometimes send their patients to me. Or otherwise, if they are off and I see their patients don't want to go back to their previous provider.
Right, right,
I
right,
have to
right.
let them know we don't steal each other's patients. But then my colleagues, sometimes, they know about the cultural piece and they really, most of the times they don't mind. I would say also as a Black MP, I have a burden. I have a real burden about the trauma that our families have because of the murders, the violence in the city. I,
Yes.
and I can see the pain and the grief they have. And, they give me 15 minutes to see a patient. And I just have to tell my medical assistant, I said, I can't do this in 15 minutes. This person is grieving. So what I have done is, and I was a model for this, and I was really glad they actually gave me an award for one of the things I do for my patients is that I started buying greeting cards. So I
Oh,
bought
wow.
cards, sympathy cards, birthday cards. So when we look on the computer and we see someone's birthday, we give them a birthday card.
Oh,
If someone has died, then my MA and I, we both will sign the card. We'll give them a sympathy card, or I have an African patient who just graduated from seminary. We gave him an encouragement card, a congratulations card. So I try to, even though I work in a clinic and I am employed by a clinic, I use my patients as like, this is my practice, because I wasn't private practice, but then my colleagues and it just didn't work out. So I use this as my practice. And I figure, like, if I did have my private practice, this is how I would run it. And so I want to be uniquely identified as a Black MP who's going to go above and beyond for their patients.
yeah, yeah. And we appreciate that. And we definitely do, and I pray that you have the opportunity to not only model that, but to coach others so that they continue to. The nurse practitioner my husband and I have, she goes way up. I've never been in the doctor's office as long as I am, and we've ever been in her office because she's extremely thorough. And at 15 minutes, no, that wouldn't work for us because we're complicated. We have a whole lot going on in our bodies and a whole lot going, a whole lot of questions. And I know that, prior to I had another doctor, and I literally had to put my hands out and said, stop rolling around in that stool. Listen to me. You okay, and we're gonna do this. He was talking real fast, and I'm like, this is not speed. This is not a speed chase. This is not a car. Stop rolling around. And he felt embarrassed after he did it, but I'm like, no, you must stop and listen to what I am saying to you.
Yes.
And focus on what my question is, because first off, you're making me dizzy in that stool running around. And
I bet.
I'm getting off target and I'm getting off focus. And I'm gonna walk out and say, I didn't ask him. I didn't, I didn't get my answers and my questions answered. So
Sure.
yeah, I really, really appreciate that, because more than anything, I think we need that time. I think we need that attention, and we definitely do as a culture, African American culture. We definitely need that time and attention. And so I thank you and I appreciate you for that. So thank you so much. We're going to take a break right here. We're going to be back with more. And we're back. I'm Dr. Julia Royston, and I am here with nurse practitioner Vivianne Griffiths. I'm so glad you're here with us today. This is a wonderful opportunity, and the health. And so I still have to ask you one more question about this health and wellness disparity. Okay, so as from a perspective now, if you need a nurse practitioner and you're in the Louisville, Kentucky area, or I don't know, you do telehealth or whatever, reach out to her. So I'm not trying to get medical advice while we're online, because I don't do that to anybody. I'm not picking anybody's brain for free. No, I'm not doing that. But I really want you to really talk about all the health and wellness disparities, and just one or two things that we really should be doing. Nobody's diagnosis, but I mean, as a people, what are one or two things that we really should be focusing on with our health, especially during COVID? I mean, I know the washing hands and the mask and all of that, but after that, is it the mental health portion, or is it just, do we need to exercise and all that good stuff?
Okay, well, pre-pandemic, we know that we always had health disparities. African Americans as well as the Latino population and Native Americans, we've always been the last to get the best care, I would say. And of course, we know that because of systemic racism. It is what it is. And what I would say that looking at what we're doing now, we just have lots of difficulty getting past our historic how should I say, atrocities that happened to us. So, and I was in a couple of COVID panels, and one of the things that I was anointed to do, appointed to do, was to talk about some of the historical things that happened to us. And of course, everyone knows about the Tuskegee experiment, where the Black men had syphilis and they were withheld treatment. You know, the US government knew that these men had syphilis, but they withheld treatment for them, which would have been just penicillin to treat syphilis. And so lots of these men either died or they went on to have neurosyphilis, you know, really severe neurological disorders because it affected their spine and their brains. So we have lots of things like that. And then also we have like Henrietta Lacks. I don't know if anyone has read the book about her, but Henrietta Lacks was a young Black woman who had cervical cancer, and her cells were harvested by some Caucasian doctors. And she is called The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks because her cells are still being used to this day in various types of treatment. And it was all done without her knowledge. So when people know those historical atrocities that have happened to us, it makes them fearful in moving forward and listening to science about things that actually can help us. Say, for example, the COVID vaccine, and we're dying at much higher proportions than any other race. So I have trouble with my younger people convincing them that, no, this is not something harmful that's being put in your bodies. This is something that was urgently done to save our lives because we know that we are dying at a higher rate than anyone else. So I would say, do your own research, go to really research-based places on webs. There's lots of yin yang on the websites that are not true. So I would go to the Center for Disease Control, the cdc.gov, and you can put in a search engine anything you want about anything, whether it's diabetes, hypertension, you know, wellness, HIV, women's health, you know, any of those things you can search and know that you are getting legitimate information. Or the NIH, which is the National Institute of Health, or the National Library of Medicine, or WHO, which is the World Health Organization. All of those websites will give you good information. So part of my job also is to educate patients and to also let them know that there are sources that are out there for them and they don't have to be a medical person to get it. However, I also tell them when you look at information, if you don't understand it, take it back to your provider to discuss it with them.
Perfect, perfect. And I know that, you know, just dealing with any elements in my families, you have to be diligent to continue to ask those questions, do your research, ask the providers, and continue to seek the help that you need to get when you have to be an advocate. You know, my parents are in their 80s, and so they're like, whatever the doctor said in the white coat, you're not a doctor, you don't know. So why are you asking the doctor a question? And I'll never forget that situation where there was a nurse, but she was caring for her mother in the bed because we were in a double occupancy room. And she said, no, sir, your daughter needs to continue to ask those questions because she said that is really key to getting the best care that you need. You must continue to ask these questions so that you get the answers, you get their attention so that you're as knowledgeable as possible. And that's probably one of the beauties of technology is that we have that ability to do our own research and ask about things that we see, things that are available. And then, of course, we got to turn around and make sure that our insurance will pay for it. You know,
Sure.
those newly discovered remedies and things, sometimes the insurance company won't even pay for it. So that's
That's
a
true.
whole nother show and whole another time. But thank you so much. So
Thank you.
this is the part that really always excites me about new books. Y'all know I'm a publisher, I'm a book lady, and this is what I enjoy and love bringing authors with their books to your attention that you may not have known. They were either authors before, but I'm super excited that we have a new book to discuss. So tell us about it. Arise and go forth. Tell us about it.
Mhm. Well, Arise and Go Forth, I've taken that from the name of my business, which is Arise and Go Forth, LLC. And I started my journey in writing in college, actually in New York. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Hunter College, but that's where I got my bachelor's degree. And I took as an elective African American literature and actually African literature. And Dr. Professor John Henrik Clark was a Black professor, and he was the only Black professor I had in the whole college. And I just was so, so excited to have a Black teacher. And he just opened up the world to me and our other students about reading literature and writing, and also about reading literature that was authored by Black authors. So that's where I would say I first started. I was in the Black Student Union for a minute, and I learned how to write poetry because growing up in college as a kid and growing up in the 60s, that's when the Black Power movement came up, you know, Black Panthers and Stokely Carmichael and Malcolm X. And I just started writing poetry. So I was writing poetry as a means to release whatever tension I had in seeing what was going on around me in society as a young Black woman. So then as I got older and never really did a whole lot with my poetry, even though I had a lot, I just started to go to some writing groups when I moved here to Louisville. And a couple of writing groups were just, different people that were writing just, they were maybe already published authors, but they just were writing different books. And I was just listening to them and, I had more of an interest in, yeah, maybe, this is really fun because you're actually being creative. I'm not an artist. I can't draw.
Oh
I
yeah,
said,
me neither. Stick people.
but yeah, yeah, but I found that I really had a joy of writing. So that's how my story, I guess, my journey to write in writing kind of began. And then I wrote a couple of short stories and never did anything with them. I still have them in a drawer. And then I started writing some poetry. But the pivotal thing with this book, Arise and Go Forth in Faith, a journal for my journey, this started when I went to South Africa. I've been to Africa twice. And if no one has ever told you about their journey to Africa, if you can't go, then please try to listen to someone because it's not what we see on TV. It is not. So I went to South Africa in 2019 on a missions trip to help launch a clinic there. I was the only medical person who went. While I was there, I was doing ministry to women who were victims of sex and drug trafficking. And when I left, I said, well, I know that these women are in a lot of pain. And I know that they are suffering and they're trying to make a better life for themselves in this church that had rescued them. So I wrote a set of meditations for them and I copied them and I gave one to each person, each woman. And then when I came back, I just happened to mention it to my pastor. I said, I wrote these meditations, for these patients, for these people, just to encourage them. And he said, well, he kind of like Joe, he said, well, you probably can make a book out of that. And I never thought about it again. But then I guess I can't remember. I know what happened. I found these meditations in my drawer. And I said, I really, really need to do something with this. I said, I was just going to write just a page of meditations, maybe have it on a CD or something like that. But I was speaking to a male friend of ours at church, and he was telling me about Dr. Julia Royston, who was helping him to publish his book. And he says, you have to call her. I said, I remember meeting her at a networking event several years ago, but I never really reached out to her. So he told me to do that. So I was obedient to the Lord, to the Spirit, and I reached out to her, and here I am.
Yay. Yay.
So thankful for Dr. Royston. She is the bomb.
Wow. So first off, going to South Africa, I have that on my bucket list. I really do.
Please do.
I've got to get on the continent. I got as close as to Spain, and I was like, I'm right here, but I was on the tour with some other people. But so that's powerful because that sex trafficking is horrific. and it's just, traumatizing within itself. So the idea that you have these devotionals, inspirationals to help people and take it to the next level, because it's not just women, it's men too as well. So
Mhm.
what do you want? There are people that you wrote them for initially who were in those very traumatic situations, but each of us has a trauma of some
Mhm.
kind, especially in
Exactly.
the times that we live. So what do you want people to really get from your book?
Mhm. Well, I made the format in that it's a journal. So, and I also made it so that it should be open to teenagers, or it should be open to men or women, single, married, churched, unchurched. But my goal is really for people to see the love of God in their lives and to see how God really moves in their lives, and for to them to introduce them to scripture if they have not already been to some scripture and some scenarios that maybe they can relate to. I'm pretty transparent, so I have actually given some little snippets of my own life in the different topics so that maybe someone looking at a particular topic, they can also say, oh, that sounds like something that I have gone through, or maybe someone
Mhm.
through. And there are 21 devotions, and Dr. Royston has been the inspirations for that. And this doesn't have to be read in order. So someone could look at a particular chapter and say, oh, I want to read that devotion today. And there is a spot where you can actually journal for yourself, a reflection and a meditation, so that you can be able to move on from where you are. That's where the title Arise and Go Forth comes from. It's actually action. When I thought about my business, I prayed about it a lot. And I said, I really want something to make people feel that they can take action in their life.
Yes, I agree. I agree hard. And I am one of this, and y'all know I'm the publisher, but I do like books myself that I can write in, take notes in, and it's a two-way communication. It's the author speaking to me, and then I can respond and reply, because I really enjoy books that are transformational, that are designed to move you from point A to point B. We're going to take another quick break, and we're going to be right back. And we're back. So I hope you're being inspired. I hope you're being encouraged. And so I want Ms. Griffiths to talk a little bit about your coaching services. What do you really want? And by the way, while we're talking, go to ariseandgoforth.com. That's ariseandgoforth.com. And the and is A-N-D. So it's arise, ARISEAND, go, G-O, forth, FORTH.com. See, I spelled it out for you. Hope you had your pen and paper still in your hand and ready to go. But so tell us a little bit about your coaching and really what you want to help people to do.
Mhm. Okay. Well, I guess I really got involved in coaching because there was a period of my time where I had friends, like girlfriends or their daughters, like calling me up to ask a question. And the questions they were asking was they wanted direction. They wanted, they had something that was going on with their life, whether it was at work, whether it was with a boyfriend, girlfriend situation, whether it was in college. And it was happening in seems like a periodic time. It was happening in a recurrent time, I would say. And I happened to say to my husband, I said, you know what? There has to be a way that I can get paid for this. That's what I said. There must be something that you can do this all the time. And the thing is, what I noticed too is that when they followed up with me, if we discuss certain things and I pretty much just listen, because coaching is different than counseling.
Mm.
That's people get confused. Coaching looks at the positive aspects of a person and where they might be struggling, and it looks at their strengths and it helps them to move forward in their strengths. And the coachee, the person who wants to be coached, actually sets the agenda. So the coach doesn't say, we're going to talk about this today. The coachee says, this is what I want to talk about this today. And then I give them strategies to reach that point. Because they have it in them. So it's just pulling that information out of them, or pulling that direction, that strength out of them that they already have, because they may not even recognize that they have it. Whereas counseling, which is also great, coaching is newer than counseling. Counseling is more of a psychological help with people who are maybe hurting, they have a pain, emotionally somewhere, might be having some struggles with, say, like maybe mental illness, or maybe an addiction, or maybe they're very, very timid. There's some malady that is needed to be helped for in counseling, whereas coaching actually looks at more wellness. It looks at the wellness aspect. So that's what drew me to it also, because I work with sick people all the time. So I needed to have some balance. I said, if I want to help a person, how can I do it in a different aspect? So I started researching different types of things. First of all, I didn't know that what I was even looking for was called coaching. I just things like, how do you help people, or something like that. I just kind of Googled it, and then it kept coming up, life coach. So I took a Christian life coaching course in 2013 with the Christian Coach Institute, which was wonderful. And then I decided that, I really think that I would like to have a focus on teens. So then I also took a virtual teen wisdom coaching course, which was a certification for a life coach specifically for teen girls. So my focus is actually teen girls and women. That's what my niche is. Then also Valerie Burton, who I followed for a long time, she is a life coach and she's absolutely wonderful. And she started the CAP Institute, which stands for Coaching and Positive Psychology. Positive psychology looks at wellness, it looks at strengths rather than illness like regular psychology does.
Right.
So I've done these certifications, but my regular job as a nurse practitioner has really been like impediment in some ways, because I don't have the time to do it, which is why I've cut back my time as a nurse practitioner. If God bless me this year, I will be retiring. I'm looking
2022, yay!
I'm looking forward to retiring so that I could do more of my writing and focus on coaching.
Excellent.
So, and I have a tag that I have for my potential coachees, and I have on the back of my card. I want them to acknowledge their purpose. I want them to activate their process, and I want them to accomplish their possibilities. So I call it E3.
I love that. I love that, because I'm all about doing. I'm the scripture says, what's one man do, it shall prosper. So I'm all about getting it done, as opposed to, oh, well, I thought about it and I'm fixing to. No, I'm all about activation and getting it done. So thank you so much for being my guest. Everybody go to ariseandgoforth.com, pick up the book, schedule some coaching time. Hopefully she'll have her calendar there so that you can schedule an opportunity to have a coaching call for young people. There's no better time to start than the present. There's no better time to start than early, so that you can get clear-cut direction and you don't not necessarily waste time, but you get direction so that you can get to your points of destiny at quicker time and focused and driven. So thank you so much for being my guest, and
thank you.
I look forward to more writings and poetry and things that we need to create to go along with the coaching services. But purchase her book at ariseandgoforth.com. Ms. Vivianne Griffiths, thank you so much. And you all be blessed. And today, tomorrow, and always, I'm Dr. Julia Royston. Live your best life. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay.